Hola, everybody. Welcome back to ChortleCast. I'm Jake. And with me, the Extreme King, the Far Cry guy, the King of Thieves, Steven. He's here.
Hola, amigos. I speak the Spanish.
I speak the Spanish. It's Cinco de Mayo at the time of this filming, and we're having a good time. I had sushi for lunch today. Really feeling the culture. You know what I mean?
It's Cinco de Mayo, so I ate a Japanese dish.
Yeah. What are you talking about? Sushi's Spanish.
It's rice and fish, same thing.
I mean, I was actually having a conversation with somebody at lunch, and they were talking about how, they were like, you know what? I realized a few years ago that pretty much every cuisine is just rice and chicken and cheese, because that's what Mexican is, and that's without cheese, that's what Japanese, popular
Oriental
Japanese
food is. Yeah.
So anyway, just a weird insight, but that's not what we're here to talk about, Steven. This is ChortleCast, the official podcast of Chortle Games, where we talk about TV shows, video games, movies, anything we want to talk about. We've got a great show for you this week. Not a whole lot of news, Steven. We're gonna dip our toe into the news this week, and then we're just gonna have some fun discussions. We're gonna discuss Days Gone. We're gonna discuss some of the games Steven's been playing, and then at the end of the show, we are gonna talk all about Avengers End Game. I'm talking spoilers. I'm talking theories. We're going to go all in. We will be very clear when that's about to start. I'll throw up a spoiler warning, the whole 9 yards. So if you don't want to be a part of that, it's going to be at the end of the episode. So
No spoilers for anything Avengers related up until that point. But when that happens, if you want to avoid spoilers, just get out of here. It's going to be no discussion point is off the table. It's all going to be spoiler heavy.
Yeah, it'll be very spoiler heavy. But again, we will be very clear when that's starting. So, all right, Steven, let's jump in to the news because it's a light news week. I'm seeing a lot of news stories that are just like all Avenger in-game stuff. That's like all my news feed is covered with. And some of them are interesting topics, but the writers just give no real insight. They just kind of re-say what happened, and they were like, "Isn't that crazy?" And I'm just like, thanks. I was there. I saw the movie. I didn't need to read this. Anyway, I digress. I can yell about that later. But anyway, the first news story I'm going to talk to you about, Steven. You like free games, right, Steven?
Usually.
Yeah. I mean, I like free games that I pay for once a year, and then I just keep getting free games. And that's what PS Plus does for you, Steven. You get free games every month. This month, we're getting the original Overcooked and What Remains of Edith Finch. Steven, what are your thoughts on these games?
I heard a lot of people are disappointed, and I can understand why. Because the first Overcooked, good game, does not have online play. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to give us an Overcooked game, give us the one that everyone's playing.
Yeah, that's what's disappointing me. So if I had never played Overcooked, even haven't played Overcooked 2, I'd be pumped about this. Yes. But yeah, Overcooked 2, they made a lot of quality of life fixes to the game.
Yeah.
And it's just, by and large, so much better than the first one.
It eliminates any reason to play the first one. It's one of those sequels where it's
exactly.
Don't even revisit it.
Yeah. And then What Remains of Edith Finch, I haven't played, but it got recommended in a lot of categories at Game of the Year. Heard people raving about it. But it's something that, you probably could have gotten that game for $10 if you wanted it,
Yeah.
So, I don't know. A bit disappointing. Brody brought up a point in our kind of group message that we have going. He was just like, I was hoping with the price raise and then, dropping the PS3 and PS Vita games that maybe we'd see some more older AAA games start to pop in, and maybe we will see some of that. We've had a good year so far,
right?
But it is just kind of a disappointing month. If you've never played either of these, great. You should be pumped.
Definitely get Overcooked. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, if you haven't played it at all, it's worth getting. It's worth having. In fact, I checked earlier to see if I even had it downloaded. On my PS4 already, because I was just I'll take a download, if I could just have it downloaded, that'd be great. I don't think it came physically though, so there might be a special edition that's physical. But I don't know. But, physical is kind of like live action, Steven, and I hate live action. You know what I mean? It's just stupid. Speaking of stupid live action movies, Steven, how about that Sonic trailer?
Okay.
That was a good segue. Come on.
No.
Whatever. I don't trust you in
work.
segues anymore.
Wow, anymore? What did I lose? What did I do to lose that?
I don't know. You keep insulting my segues, so I'm not happy with you.
Speaking
Steven,
of insulting, how about that Sonic trailer?
how about that Sonic trailer? So how about that Sonic trailer? We've had, the internet has been ablaze ever since the first poster that just showed the silhouette of Sonic. People have been like, "Oh my gosh, what is this? Why?" And now we finally got our first look. What did you think, Steven? You had a much more positive view on it than I did.
Don't put that on me.
Well, and that's not saying much, but
I said that it looks like trash, but Jim Carrey looks like he is giving every ounce of performance he can, and he actually looks good for the part of Dr. Robotnik.
In the final shot of the trailer where they show him bald and he's got the crazy mustache, I was like, okay, I see it. I can respect that you're going there, but
he looks good, and I think he was a good casting. He's gonna at least be fun, and it's gonna be one of those movies where it's like, there's sometimes those movies where it's just a bad movie, but you love one performance. I feel like that's gonna be this movie, where it's like it's worth seeing just to see Jim Carrey try to carry this entire movie on his shoulders.
I thought you were going to say it's like one of those movies that's so bad it's entertaining to watch, kind of like Mac and Me.
Well, yes, it's going to be that too, but it's going to at least have Jim Carrey, I think, giving a pretty... he's going to be entertaining. That's Jim Carrey.
I'm glad you had that opinion of Jim Carrey, because when I watched the trailer, I was just like, oh my gosh, this character Jim Carrey is bringing out is so annoying. Like, and I think it's mainly the scene with the general at the beginning that I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't like this is not funny to me. I don't like this.
But that's the point.
Right. Well, and then maybe
that's
so.
That's Dr. Robotnik. You're supposed to kind of hate him.
You're supposed to hate him. So I think the biggest issue that people have coming out of this trailer is just people hate the design of Sonic. It's so much so that the directors have now said they are going to fix and redesign Sonic before the movie comes out, which blows my mind.
When does it come out?
I don't remember a date. I can try and Google one.
It's got to be summer.
You think when?
It seems like a summer movie.
Let me do a quick little Google search. I also Googled today, is Betty White still alive in 2019? And she is. I'm happy to know that the Betty White watch is still on. What am I Googling?
Sonic movie release date.
Movie release date. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so November 8th, 2019.
Okay, that makes more sense.
I don't know what all goes into creating a CGI character, but I do know that it's a lot. And I don't know that they can do that before November. But some people have had an interesting theory that they cut that trailer with this Sonic design to stir outrage so that they could fix it before the actual movie and get people on board. So like this was a big publicity stunt to get a riled up crowd to redeem and then be a well-designed Sonic and it be a good movie.
So possible.
It's interesting. I think it's crazy that they're...
I bet they have different iterations of the character. Like they've got different CGI
Right, they probably
designs.
went through several iterations.
There was a fan who did a redesign himself
Yes.
that looked great.
Yeah. I've seen tons of fan redesigns that do look so much better. But and this is my thing. So a lot of people are comparing this to Detective Pikachu, which comes out this week. Super excited about it.
Yes.
Steven, you and I on this podcast, when they said, "Hey, we're doing a Detective Pikachu movie," we were both like, "That's dumb. That's going to be stupid. Why?" We see the first trailer, both of us. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
I take back everything I said. This looks great. This is so exciting. A lot of people are comparing it to that. I think one thing that the Detective Pikachu movie nailed is they nailed the aesthetic. And I'm just talking about from the trailer right now. Like, I haven't seen the movie yet. But, like, you can tell in the trailer, like, oh my gosh, this is the Pokemon world. Like, this is what it would look like if they were real. And so a lot of people got on board with that. But also...
because it feels like... Because in the Detective Pikachu trailer, you don't see Pikachu sitting in a Ford F-150 with his master talking about, like, "Hi, I'm Pikachu.
Right.
I electrocute people." It's like, you don't... When doing a movie like that, you don't want to take our iconic characters and put them in our world. You want to take the audience and take them into the world of the character.
Right.
That's the main difference. And the CGI is way better in Pokemon.
It does. I wasn't even going there. What I was about to get to was Ryan Reynolds' performance as Detective Pikachu so far has sold me on the whole thing.
Yep.
I don't know. I didn't catch who is voicing Sonic or who's playing that.
Did you ever watch Parks and Recreation?
He's from Parks and Recreation?
Did you ever watch that show?
I've seen some episodes.
Do you know Aziz Ansari's character, Tom, the Indian guy?
Yeah.
His really loud, annoying friend, Jean-Ralphio?
I don't remember. I don't know that I've ever met him in the show.
It's him, and if you ever saw him on the show, you'd be like, that makes a lot of sense. but it is him.
I don't know. I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but he just didn't sell the character for me. And like, not that who is Sonic anyway? Like, what character does Sonic have? But like, nothing about the performance made me think, oh man, this is going to be a great Sonic.
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like it's failing in a lot of places. And sure, the design is what we're hearing the most about, and they're fixing that. I still don't know that that's even the main problem. But I could be proved wrong. The performance could end up being fine, but I don't know.
I think the best thing they could do to capture the essence of Sonic in this movie is basically just make it, the majority of it, feel like an episode of Tom and Jerry, basically, where Tom is Dr. Robotnik, constantly coming up with these harebrained schemes, trying to get Sonic, and Sonic is on another level and just barely fazed by everything, making wisecracks the whole time. Like the scene where he like looks at his watch, he's like, "Oh, I made 9 million steps today."
Yeah,
that's good on paper, but something felt off about that scene. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's maybe that's one of the things that I like about how they're teasing Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik.
Right.
When Sonic's like, "Is that the best you can do?" and he's like, "No, but thanks for asking." Mm-hmm. Like, that's the thing about Robotnik, is that he's got countermeasures upon countermeasures upon countermeasures in all of his robots. He's got robots inside of his robots that are inside of his robots.
Right.
And so if they capture that kind of feel of Sonic's just constantly running, Dr. Robotnik's constantly trying to get him, it's like, we love Tom and Jerry, Roadrunner, even Mad Max Fury Road is basically an episode of Roadrunner. We love stuff like that. Just
make do that with Sonic.
With Sonic, it would be great.
I do want to make one other thing that I thought was kind of funny. In the opening shot, right, when who's the guy who's like the main human, the good guy that like finds Sonic? What's that actor's name? I can never remember his name. He's been in a ton of stuff.
James something, I think.
He was in the Hopper movie, which I think is funny. There's a shot that looks exactly like this. Yeah.
In Hop, yeah. He's also Cyclops from the X-Men movies.
That's right. Okay, but anyway, he's sitting in his cop car, right? And he's got his radar on, and we see Sonic like hauling butt across the highway, right? And he zips past him in a flash, like just so quick he didn't even see what it was. And he looks at his speedometer, and he was going 75. And I was just like, really? That's pretty low.
Does the speedometer change? Doesn't it like go up? And he's like, and he like taps it because he thinks it's broken.
I think it did, but I could have sworn it said he was going 75. And I was just like, that's not that fast. Like, I don't know. And it just caught me off guard. Maybe it said like 750, you know, and I'm just an idiot. That might have been it, yeah. That makes more sense. But yeah. I swear it said 75, and I was just like, okay, whatever. so then for him to be like, oh man, in slow motion, like, I got however many steps in today, and it's like, you're not moving that fast, Sonic. Like, you should be, but you apparently can only go 75. Anyway, I digress.
It could be good if they do moments like that where like time freezes, like kind of in a Quicksilver way from X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe even do it in a way to where Sonic addresses the audience,
mm-hmm.
or like not in a like where he's literally just talking straight to you like Deadpool, mm-hmm. but in a way to where it's like he's pondering, what should I have for dinner, while he's like about to be shot by robots or something. The stuff like that could totally work.
Mm-hmm.
It just looks wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, maybe I mean, this is my thing. Kudos for them for listening to your audience and trying to fix the problem. Like, I never would have, in a game, Absolutely. That makes sense. In a movie, I never in a million years would have thought we would hear something like this.
That's crazy.
So, again, I totally buy into the theory that this was a publicity stunt. They knew they were not going to use this character from the get-go, but who knows. Corey Barlog, who did God of War, had a really interesting Twitter post. Basically, he was like, I kind of hate that they're doing this, because what does that mean for like creative vision now? You know, you as a creator are making something, and you're trying to interpret something in a unique way, and you know, people may look at it and say, oh, I don't like this, but then when you see the full thing, it's like, oh wow, I never would have thought I'd like that, but seeing it in action, I really do. So he was like, you know, kudos for them to listening to their audience, but like also, this is kind of a scary future where social media can change complete, you know, arcs of how something's going to be.
Well, that's just how social media is. Social media can basically tank a movie. That's why movies like Captain Marvel got review bombed, mm-hmm. and they had to be corrected because social media.
Right.
But that brings up the debate of does an IP belong to the creator or to the fans? And a lot of people would say obviously the creator, but with an established character like Sonic, who became so big to get his own live action movie because of the fans,
mm-hmm.
how much should the fans have a say when it's his first live action interpretation?
Right, and that's a great point, because at a certain point, something gets so big, you know, we forget who the creator is. Like, who's the creator of Pokemon, Steven? Do you even know?
No,
I can't think of. You know, I'm sure it's one of the big wigs at Nintendo or somebody. I mean, you could say the name and I might recognize it. But like stuff like that's just gotten so huge. Not to mention the creator may be dead. You know, in a lot of these things.
Right.
So that's an interesting debate to bring up. But okay, that's all the news we got. And this was just kind of conversational anyway. So we're just going to transition right into catch up, Steven. This is where we talk about what we've been playing this week. Steven, a nice little game. We didn't have a podcast last week, so there's a couple things kind of overlapping here. But this little game called Days Gone came out. Steven, I'm really mad that you got to live stream it, because I've been excited about this game, and I've been really excited to play it. And so
I didn't play it.
You didn't? That's right. You let the other guys play it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm still jealous, because I was ready to go, and then plans got awry. When you're moving houses and when you've been in a car wreck, lots of things don't go according to plan. But anyway, what did you think about it, Steven? Just you, I know, because you had a pretty brief time with it.
Based on what I saw, it is the next Sony exclusive, like AAA game. Like it is the third in a line of two previous monster hits.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got God of War, won Game of the Year, Spider-Man, Game of the Year contender that was loved by all.
I thought you were about to say that was robbed.
That was robbed for not a single VGA. What are you doing, internet? What are you doing? But so you had Days Gone next, right. And so people are like, let's get it, another God of War, let's go. This is going to be as good as God of War because it's a single player open world game. So it's like it's going to be the level of Spider-Man and God of War. Mm-hmm. Everybody was saying that. And so I think that it was doomed from the start because not only was it the next in line, but it also has the expectation to live up to a previous apocalyptic zombie shooter called Last of Us. You might have heard of it. Mm-hmm. One of the most well-received games in recent years. Mm-hmm. So the game suffers from kind of what Anthem suffered from. Comparison. Not being given a chance to be what it was intended to be when it came out. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, and again, this is just based on my time with it, that comparison continues because as far as I saw, it was generic. Yeah. It wasn't bad, but it had zombies that operate
freakers,
similar to
Steven. Freakers.
Sorry, it had freakers that operated very similarly to the zombies in World War Z, which came out 2 weeks prior.
Yeah.
And so it didn't really have that going for it as an original thought. The shooting is nothing special. The open world is nothing special. It just didn't do anything for itself, if that makes sense.
Well, to echo what you're saying, you brought up an interesting point. Yeah, it had a lot of pressure and a lot of build-up coming in, a lot of expectation going into it, especially considering how much marketing PlayStation did for this game. But even in a vacuum where no other Sony game has ever existed, this game still has a lot of issues. And most of them are just from a technical standpoint. I've been playing a decent amount. I'm probably 10 hours in. I'm not super far, but I've played, a decent amount. I can't tell you how many glitches and audio and technical errors I've had. I had a guy grab me and try to strangle me, and I, did the buttons to get out of that. And somehow in that interaction, Deacon got a screwdriver in his grip. And after, I assume he was supposed to stab that into the eye of the person, and then it would be gone. Yeah. That didn't happen, Steven. I had a screwdriver in my hand for the next hour, and for whatever reason, it restricted me from using my binoculars, which you use to mark enemies.
That's such a specific glitch.
Say what?
That's such a specific glitch.
It's so strange. I've had several times where I've been traveling and I'll be driving through what's supposed to be a town, and I'll be about midway through the town and suddenly buildings just pop up, and it's just whoa, holy smokes! Here we are. I've seen clips of a guy sneaking in someplace, and there's 1 or 2 freakers kind of in the middle, and as soon as he gets up to the first freaker and stabs him, a horde spawns in around him. Many just strange technical glitches. Overall, I'm really enjoying the game. I'm invested in the story, although I have heard that it's disappointing. I'm interested in the characters. I'm really interested in about the freakers and how they came to be, because again, I've heard that it's disappointing, but I'm really interested to see how they came about. I'm assuming, that the Nero folks, which are a faction that are scientists that you are fighting, I haven't really fought them yet. You have to kind of hide from them. They're pretty powerful. I'm assuming they caused the horde in an experiment, but I don't know that yet. Anyway, I'm really invested in the story. The gameplay is fun. I'm really invested in the melee because, like you mentioned, the shooting is not great. And that's maybe another thing about it that, some people might not like, but I'm having fun with, is I don't know if this is a glitch. I don't know if this is an intentional way the game functions. But basically, if you just go all melee and dodge roll, in most situations, you can survive anything because enemies will stop shooting at you if you dodge roll into them, and they don't shoot you while you're hitting somebody with a melee weapon. So you can pretty much just like go all melee on folks and take out a whole camp. Now that being said, I took on a camp a few days ago or last night actually that if you made too much noise, a horde would come into the camp, and they pretty much always came for you. Like in some of the trailers and some of the demos, they showed like, oh, you can break this wall down and the horde will come in and destroy this camp for you. That did not work out that smooth for me. So, anyway, I'm having a lot of fun with it, but yeah, the technical issues from it, and then just kind of like you said, like in general, it's a fine game. You know, if you like these types of things, you might have fun with it. But it's just fine.
My impressions were that it does a lot of things that other games have done, but it doesn't do any of them the best.
So on that note, let me ask you about this, Steven, because you've played World War Z.
Yeah. And
you've seen Days Gone. Did you guys see a horde at all while y'all were playing?
Not a World War Z size horde.
Okay. I haven't come across any big ones yet. I think I've defeated one horde, and I want to say it was maybe 50 freakers. It was very small. And then that, like I said, the camp that would attract a horde, that was maybe another group of 50 freakers. Like I probably could have taken them on if I really wanted to, but I haven't seen, like there's supposedly hordes that are like 500. Like I haven't come across that yet. You've seen some and you've seen some videos. How does it compare to World War Z's zombie horde? Because I feel like in all the promotional stuff, they're like, what makes this game, a unique zombie game? And they're like, oh, the horde. The horde is so unique. It's so different. Yada, yada, yada. It's this great system.
So
is World War Z, I mean, would you say World War Z is pretty much like they kind of stole their thunder a little bit with that?
I would say they did, because World War Z defied its expectations in the positive sense.
Right.
Everyone expected it to be another generic Left 4 Dead clone, but it's Left 4 Dead elevated. So I do think it stole its thunder a little bit because people have been talking about it and they've been like, hey, here's some crazy stuff from this game. But here's the difference. And since I haven't seen a bigger horde for Days Gone, I'll let this kind of be the deciding factor based on what I have seen. Days Gone is open world. World War Z is linear. When you have a linear as opposed to open world game, the linear design, everything is designed for a specific thing to happen. So in World War Z, you've got these moments where you look down a city street and you just see what look like ants, but it's a horde headed towards you, climbing over cars and everything. And that's a moment where it's like, oh boy, like it's supposed to happen, so they were able to craft it into a very specific moment. But you have an open world game, you don't have as many of those like this was supposed to happen things, but you have more dynamic things.
Yeah, I was going to say, if that's what you're kind of looking for, then Days Gone does that, because I've had several interactions where I was somewhere, thought I was cool, thought everything was chill, I made a noise, and next thing I know, I'm being overrun. And like, if you make noise anywhere, 3 or 4 freakers are going to show up. Like that's just how it works. But if you're near a horde, the horde will come for you. And so I was clearing nests, some freaker nests, which is a kind of a thing you just do. It unlocks
it's a thing
fast
you do.
Travel points and that sort of stuff. I was clearing nests. Everything was fine. There were a couple freakers around, but you can handle 10 freakers without any issues, especially with my melee trick. So I'm burning this one nest, and I kind of turn around after I finished, and I was collecting ears, which are credits and bounties and stuff. And I hear like the freaker noises, and I turn around to see a horde literally on top of me, and I was just like, oh F, and like I rolled and was like trying to run, but they overran me. They just took me over like nothing.
Right.
And those moments that was probably the most excited I've been in the game yet.
Right.
Because it just was
So
adrenaline pumping, and
yeah.
yeah.
So I guess the distinction there regarding the Horde, if you are looking for the Horde to exist in an action game, I would totally say World War Z, because it has those set pieces where the Horde is intentional about taking advantage of these mechanic points that it's supposed to. Like, if you're up on a bridge, the Horde knows its way up to get to you is making a tower of bodies.
Yeah.
And so you'll look around, you'll see like 4 towers of bodies forming, and you have to shoot them down. Stuff like that's really cool.
Yeah.
But on the other end, you don't do anything with the Horde other than fight it. You don't run from it. You sometimes run from it, but you fight it. You combat it with friends. But in Days Gone, it seems like it's more of something to be utilized and to flee from.
Yeah, exactly.
Because in World War Z, you don't have other humans to fight. It's just the zombies, or the Zeeks as they call them. Just call them zombies.
Just call them what they are, everybody. Jeez.
But in Days Gone, you can use a Horde to take out a camp for you. You can sneak around the Horde. You can't really do much of that in World War Z, but I would say pretty confidently that the action mechanics against a Horde are better in World War Z.
Well, anyway, it's interesting that, yeah, they've had, here Days Gone is, and like from the first time we saw it at E3, it was all about this Horde. Like, that was the big deal. And then World War Z came out 2 weeks before and has essentially the same thing, in a very general term. But I don't know, interesting. Overall, I'm really liking it. If you're somebody who's on the fence about it and want to try it, there is a fun game in there. So just, watch some folks, listen to some folks that you kind of have the similar opinions to you, and maybe give it a try. Maybe see if it goes on sale, something like that. I don't know. What's it called? GameStop was doing a 48-hour trade back, right, at full price. I don't know how that all works. I'm not sure if that was like if you pre-order it and you bring it back in 48 hours, you'll get your whole thing back or not. That was something interesting, Steven. Days Gone had a really good sales weekend, which either says the marketing was did its job, or something like what GameStop was doing with a 48-hour trade back really worked, to get sales moving, because people were like, yeah, if I can get my money back in 2 days, if I don't like this, that's plenty of time, especially if you got a lot of free time on a weekend. That's plenty of time to play.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there hasn't really been a single-player open-world game come out since Red Dead.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's been a long time. That's part of the reason why I've kind of just been slow on games, is because Anthem didn't hook me quite like I wanted it to. Trying to get back into Destiny after playing Anthem just kind of made me not want to play anymore. The Drifters stuff did not hook me like I hoped it would, so I wasn't playing that. So I've kind of been just moping around looking for some single player story stuff. I've been doing a lot of Hitman just because I didn't have anything. I didn't have anything else. So so yeah, this is the first
Division.
big. Say again.
You could play Division.
Yeah, but that didn't hook me either. So I've been waiting for a Days Gone, something like this, to come, and finally, it did. And I'm having fun with it. I'm gonna play through the whole thing, but I really wish they would patch stuff. And that's probably more than anything. Like you can say it's not rewarding, you can say it's not fun, or you can say it's too long or whatever. But the thing that I just really don't understand how they messed up so bad is the technical issues, because it's not. I'm playing on a standard PS4, but PS4 Pros are having the same issues, and it's just how did you not optimize this game to work better? And they've had so many patches come out already. I swear, every time I boot it up, there's a 19 gigabyte patch or something. I mean, they've done a lot of patches and it's still not there, and I just don't. Especially since the game got delayed, and it's just been so much time. How is it not fully optimized? But whatever. Anyway, go check it out if you want, if you're interested. Steven, what have you been playing? You been playing anything fun you want to talk about?
So, not really. It's been more Division 2.
Right.
Been working on finding a build that I actually enjoy until they fix the recalibration and different optimization stuff, and release the set that I'm waiting for. Basically, I'm twiddling my thumbs till they release the stuff that I care about. But been trying to get raid ready. We played Portal Nights on Saturday. That was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. I'd like to revisit that at some point.
Yeah. So that was good. That's basically it. Like, I've not really done a whole lot. Gosh, I feel like I'm missing a game.
Well, I was just about to say, this probably should have been in news, but I just now remembered it. What did you think of the Borderlands 3 reveals that happened this week?
Yeah, well, shoot, why didn't we talk about that?
Well, I'm talking about it now, Steven.
It looks great. I watched the whole thing live. I love the character concepts they're going with. Just to hit some various things that stood out to me. Normally in Borderlands, each character gets one active skill, and the rest of the things that they get in their skill tree are more things that passively happen. Like they might change your melee, or you might have faster reload speed, or whatever. In this game, you get to choose from 3 active skills.
Whoa.
So your skill button will be one of 3 options. Unless if you play Zane, the operative, he gets 3 choices, and he gets to use 2 of them at once.
Wow.
Which is really cool. I might have to play him.
Yeah, I remember that's the only character I remember you saying, like, oh, I'm going to have to check this guy out.
Well, it's funny because I'm actually really excited about 3 of the 4 characters. Because you've got Amara, who is a melee siren. I don't really care about that because I've never been into the sirens, but Brody really likes the sirens. So she's basically a punching mage, if you want to look at it that way. Then
She the one who has the 4 arms or whatever?
Yes. She's like a psychic brawler, I guess. Then you've got Flack, who is a robot that is homeless. And he has his, that's what they called him, the homeless robot. I don't know if he actually is homeless, but he looks homeless. He's got this skag, which is basically like a mutated wolf thing, and it follows him everywhere. So he's like a pet ranger.
Interesting.
So he's got the skag that does battle with him, and I'm most excited about him, I think. Then you've got Zane, who's the operative, who has various gadgets, like he can have a digital clone of himself, he can throw up a force field, and he can throw out a drone. So he can do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you've got, I forget the last girl's name, but she is a soldier who can drop a Titanfall mech. And literally just hop in and just go nuts. So all of those but the siren, I'm like, heck yes, that sounds awesome. But the game itself, I was worried that it would go down the approach of being a games as service kind of thing, where the game isn't finished at launch and they periodically release, kind of like somewhere between the line of Destiny and Far Cry.
Right.
Where they don't give you a full experience at first. They expect you to keep revisiting the experience. But by the sound of it, it's just more of the Borderlands that we fell in love with all of the previous games.
That's good.
There's a lot of huge upgrades to the game. You can go to different planets now instead of just being stuck on Pandora. There is instanced loot, which is amazing, which basically means every player gets their own loot drops.
Right.
But you can still share with other players.
Right. And don't you have your own ship that's like your hub world or something like that?
Yes. You have Sanctuary 3. They don't talk about Sanctuary 2, is what Randy said. But it's in 2, it was Sanctuary the City. But in 3, it's going to be a ship that is your hub that you can use to go to other planets. It just looks super fun. A lot of modernization to the way a shooter plays. Like you can do drop slides like Titanfall now, which is awesome. It seems a lot more vertical than 2 was, but not in the way that pre-sequel was. More of a less floaty, more of utilizing your jumps, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm getting more and more interested in it. I did not realize that Borderlands kind of started this whole looter shooter style of game, like Destiny and Anthem and all these other things.
Yeah, when Destiny was coming out, people said, wow, this looks like Borderlands, the MMO.
Right. See, because to me, in my head, Borderlands is a Telltale game, which I think Telltale did something with Borderlands.
They did a Borderlands game.
Yeah. But and even beyond that, what I mean is I think of Borderlands as like a story game. I don't think of it as a multiplayer, get your friends together and let's go do this looter shooter, which is not PvP, right? It's just...
It's 4-player co-op with any mixture of split screen and online that you want to do. It's just story.
Wow.
Like a campaign.
Jake, I might have to get this because I've seen a lot of the guns, and the guns are just wacky.
There's a TDR. TDR is a brand where like they're disposable guns. And so in the previous games, when you throw it, it's like throwing a grenade. But in 3, they have different effects. Like you can dispose of one, and it'll grow legs and just start walking around shooting things.
That's awesome.
I don't know why I loved that as much as I did, but like when he threw it and then just grew these little legs and just started walking around shooting. I laughed so hard. But you would probably really enjoy it, honestly.
Wow.
And actually, I'm going to go ahead and try to tempt you here. Borderlands The Handsome Collection, which is Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel, is like $15 on PSN right now.
Right.
2 full games. And in one of them, you can play as an assassin named Zero who can teleport and has a sword.
Maybe.
So, buy it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'll play it with you. I'm all about that.
I know you will. You'll play anything with me if I agree to play with you. Is how it works.
I miss us playing things. So
I'm sorry, Steven. I'm a loner.
Yeah.
You know me. I like to play my Days Gone with my headphones on and become immersed.
Okay.
I might get it. I might look into it. I definitely think I'm getting 3 at this point. I've become interested.
I think you will be surprised with how much you enjoy Borderlands. The shooting's not as slick as Destiny, but the humor's great, the writing's great, the characters are great. It's just one of those games that it's like you'll find yourself laughing the whole time, but actually getting invested with the characters.
I hate laughing, but I do like getting invested with characters, like in Avengers End Game.
Yeah.
Steven, let's talk about Avengers End Game. But first,
spoilers.
Everyone,
spoilers.
If you
spoilers.
haven't effing seen this movie, just stop right now. We'll see you next time. Come watch Steven live stream tonight. Okay, he's gonna be live streaming Division 2. Or just come hang out with us sometime this week. Look, get out of here. Go see the movie right now, okay? Like, we've given you permission. Just go. Just go see it right now. But we're about to spoil End Game.
You have our blessing.
Okay? So just get out. Go. Okay? Yeah. Spoilers. Steven, End Game was effing amazing.
Howard the Duck was in End Game. Did you see him?
No. Where?
When everyone shows up through the portals, when it shows Wasp, if you look, he's really tiny in the shot over her shoulder where the Ravagers are showing up. Howard the Duck shows up carrying a huge gun.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. That's what I saw somebody say that. I didn't see it when I saw it, but I saw a freeze frame of it. And unless if it was edited, Howard the Duck was totally there. So it is canon that Howard the Duck fought the final battle. Yep.
That's amazing. Okay, well, Steven, let's start. Let's just start at the beginning, okay?
Yes.
You and I had this theory that they were going to go to Titan and they were going to kill Thanos and either lose people, or they were going to kill Thanos, or they weren't going to kill Thanos. They weren't even going to make it a second time. Movie starts. They go kill Thanos. It took nothing. Like, it was not a fight.
Which, honestly, I was impressed with them doing that because it seemed so obvious, yet no one thought that when they said he used the stones again, no one thought that he used them to destroy them. It seems so obvious once it happened. I was like, wow, that makes a stupid amount of sense. But
well, so they did that, and then 5 years later, we jump forward. So much shit happened.
So how do you feel about the 5 years later?
I loved it. I loved everything about it. The only thing I didn't like is that we didn't get more explanation. And I'm sure you're going to disagree with this because I've talked to our friend Ben about this, and I think you and him agree. But we see Professor Hulk. I want to know more about that. Like, what did Hulk and Banner have to do to come to that agreement? Like, they mention it, and Banner's just like, "Oh yeah, dude, we just like came to terms with one another, and now I'm big and brainy."
He spent 18 months in a gamma chamber, and that's how it happened. That's all we know.
Right. But that's my point. Like, I wish we had seen more of that. I
agree.
I freaking loved the Scott and Cassie moment. That was so emotional.
Yes.
I wanted more stuff like that.
Probably the saddest loss in this movie is the fact that the child actor that plays Cassie isn't going to be around anymore. That was the cutest kid I've ever seen.
But can we talk about how well they did finding an actress who looked just like her?
They really did.
It's scary impressive. But yeah, that was a great moment. So I like the time jump because it gave us a lot of things quickly. Professor Hulk, I hated what they did with Thor. It was funny for a moment, but I needed that to stop real quick.
I hated Thor. I was over it before the first scene.
Like, I got it. I was on board when they were still in the room and he was, falling apart. But I really wanted him to revert back to normal real quick after that.
A friend of mine said that in his second viewing, he said he really liked what they did with Thor because it was like a depiction of depression.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
To an extent, he's right.
Yeah.
But the problem is, if you're trying to accurately depict depression, don't play it for laughs. Speaking as someone who deals with depression, don't laugh at what I struggle with. Don't make like, oh, you look like melted ice cream. Oh, I'm legitimately dead inside. Like, it's not like you can't have your cake and eat it too in that sense.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I agree with that totally. But then also Iron Man having a daughter, that blew my mind. I had no idea that would happen. So I liked the time jump. I thought it made a lot of sense how they did it. And also Captain Marvel, she had her cool haircut. Man, good stuff.
I have a lot of questions about the time jump, and I've got a huge theory for later that I will discuss that implements the time jump. But as of right now, if they did that without any kind of forethought for what goes beyond phase 3, are we in phase 3?
I think, this is Far From Home will be the final movie in phase 3, which confuses me because End Game is the last movie in the Infinity Saga.
Right.
So I don't understand how that works, but I'll allow it. But anyway, yeah.
So what was this? Okay. If they did that time jump, such a large time jump, without telling Marvel, in a sense, like now they've got to plan ahead with the movies that are coming later, with the understanding that it is not 2019 anymore. It is 2023. But again, I'll touch on that later.
But
as of right now, I thought that I don't know how I feel about the time jump. I knew there would be one, and I wanted there to be one, but I didn't think it would be so large.
Yeah. And
I feel like the entire reason they did such a large time jump was just so Tony could have a family before he died. Yeah.
Like I said, I hope there are some ramifications. And one of the things we've talked about is 50% of the world got snapped and 100% of Peter Parker's friends got snapped. We all make that joke. Like, I hope Far From Home addresses that this batch of kids who were in the decimation, all their friends are in college now. They've graduated. They're gone. I hope they address that, and I don't know. I hope there's some sort of classification for the kids that got decimated. Like, I don't know. Anyway, I hope they address that. But just going along your point, I hope they address some of this time travel forward stuff. But overall, I really liked it.
If they cleverly integrate it as a consequence, I think it's great, because then it makes it to where all of Thanos' stuff lasts.
Really matters.
It really did affect everything, and it never did fully mend.
Well, and not to get too dark here, but like, there's a lot of stuff that happened in the 5 years that even undoing the snap isn't going to fix.
Right.
First off, sure, it resurrected everyone who got snapped, but what about people who were in the plane where their pilot got snapped? Yep. They're all dead on the ground. What about people who were in car accidents? Stuff that just went wrong because of the decimation and people died. Like, that sucks. And even beyond that, like, they were talking about, there was the guy in Cap's therapy group who was like, yeah, I met another guy, we're gonna go out again next week. We both had loved ones who were decimated. Like, okay, your loved one's back now, but what are you? Some people probably beyond that fell in love and maybe even got remarried. What happens to them when their loved one shows back up? Like,
it was a cataclysmic event that needs to affect the entirety of Phase 4 and maybe into Phase 5. Because, like, there's so many things: the collapse of government, children who lost their parents. Like, just people who were affected, and those scars remain. They didn't get to go away for those 5 years.
Exactly.
And that needs to matter.
Yeah. All right, let's move on from that. So, what did you think about the time travel and going back to all those great moments? I've been saying a lot that this movie, like, no one should watch this as their first Marvel movie, because it is truly a celebration. More so than anything, it is a true celebration of the 11 years that
there
this
is
has been
a
going
reference.
On.
There's a reference to literally every Marvel movie that precedes it.
Oh, absolutely. And there's even just in small lines.
I counted, and I think it's literally every movie has a specific moment. Yeah.
Yeah. But so you liked the time travel and where they went and what they saw and did and all that stuff.
I liked that they did it. I do not like how much they leaned on it, especially since it was so inconsistent and they broke their rules a lot.
What way?
That was just... They kept saying, like, no, it doesn't work like these movies. But it did. Like they said, it's specifically not Back to the Future. Then they just basically did Back to the Future too. They talked about it how, like, I feel like I have to get my whiteboard for this. So the way time travel works in Avengers End Game is whenever time travel occurs, you've got timeline A. Let's say timeline A is the universe in which we have been watching movies this whole time. Then over here in timeline A, Tony Stark is like, hey, let's time travel to fix this. He goes back here. I'm doing a gesture with my arm, Jake, so I know you don't get the benefit of this, but it's great. He goes back here, and the moment that time travel occurs, a parallel timeline is created called timeline B. Everything that happens in timeline B, none of it affects timeline A. So that is how, and they didn't really properly explain it because a lot of people in my group were very confused. But so when Thanos from the past goes to our present in timeline A and dies, people were like, well, wait, wouldn't that have made it to where his conquest never happened? No, because that was timeline B Thanos. So the only timeline that was affected is timeline B. So from that point on, Thanos is gone. He's dead.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was confusing. It felt like they broke their rules. It did not make any sense that Nebula was able to get Pym particles to Thanos to get his whole ship through. One, how the heck did they fit an entire space cruiser into the time travel machine, whatever. Two, and I know the directors addressed this, they said, oh yeah, Ebony Maw is a really smart wizard, so he reverse engineered Pym particles in like 10 minutes. Like,
he's real smart,
Steven. That. He's apparently like, geez. But But the fact, and a lot of people say, oh, that's just being nitpicky. But this is like plot critical stuff.
Yeah.
Like Nebula being in the past and being like, oh, I guess Nebula A is on the same Wi-Fi plan as Nebula B, so their thoughts are getting intersected, and it just so happens to bring up a projection of them saying like, all right, so we got to kill Thanos. It's like so many coincidences that just I feel like there could have been a better road to get there.
Yeah. Well, either way, it was very fun. It was fun to see things. I think the Loki Disney Plus movie is gonna be Timeline B Loki, who escaped from the Avengers. Yeah. There was a poster released today, and it was him in handcuffs holding the Tesseract.
Yep.
And it was just saying, I think it said a date or whatever that it was going to be out on Disney Plus.
So that presents exciting. The question then. So in your opinion, establishing the rules of time travel that we just made, was that timeline B or was that timeline C, D, or E? Because and this is where it gets complicated. Technically that would be timeline B because it was the first branch made because it goes all the way back to 2012.
Yeah.
But are we to assume because the time travel happened at the exact same time, is the 2014 time jump in the same time stream as the 2012 time jump? Or did that exist? Was that a time jump from 2023 into 2014? So making a third timeline. You see what I'm saying? Like
you lost me. So I just did the math in the head number thing, the meme. I have no idea what you're talking.
So my thinking is each mission was a completely different timeline, separate from the other missions. So Loki being freed from the Tesseract would not have happened in the same timeline in which Nebula and War Machine went to get the Power Stone. Because that was an isolated incident that happened in timeline B.
I understand what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Well, and see, the thing that I keep jumping back to whenever you talk about, well, what happens in this branch and how does this make sense and all this and that is the Ancient One explaining to Hulk, or rather Hulk explaining to the Ancient One, like, yes, when we take something out of time, it creates a branch, but when we put it back, it fixes it. That's what I keep going back to is like, well, everything was put back in its place. Everything is right. And even the Thanos being decimated and it being like, oh, what does that mean? He shouldn't have been there. In my head, when they snapped, he went back in time. Like they snapped him back to his proper time. But obviously there's no way of proving that. That's just how I explain it to myself in my head. But I don't know. So, they should have explained that. But
I think that it killed him. I think it wiped him out of existence. I think that would have made it to where technically timeline B is now a brighter timeline. I don't really have much theory to support that.
I don't want to go any further down this road.
But you see what I'm saying? Like it brought up so many questions that were not addressed that make it feel sloppy. When you spend more time scratching your head trying to figure out why this exact thing happened than they spend even trying to explain anything. And it's a bloated movie.
I think why they do that is because it's like, we're not here to explain everything that's happening right now. You just need to jump on board and go because there's a lot of things we're trying to cover here.
Right.
But anyway, okay, Steven, what was your favorite moment from the whole movie?
I won't. Okay, I'm gonna start by saying this. My favorite laugh from the whole movie, is in the 2012 mission. That whole thing was just full of laughs.
Which you need to tell me places because I don't remember what happened in what year.
New York.
Okay.
The whole Hulk thing where he's like seeing an old Facebook post of yourself when he's like smashing the car and then Professor Hulk's just like, oh, that's embarrassing. Like that was good. The whole thing with Captain America fighting his 2012 self and him taking one punch and immediately being like, I could do this all day. It's like, it betrays him as
he was like,
such an action figure. But the funniest part to me was when Tony looks at his suit and he goes, "Man, Rogers, that suit did nothing for your ass." And then Ant-Man on Tony's Soldier says, "Don't listen to him, Captain America. As far as I'm concerned, that's America's ass."
There was some great humor, like Chris
I
Pratt dancing, and then it cuts to War Machine and Nebula, and he's like, "So this guy's an idiot, right?" It's like
I personally hated that line for because, and I probably expressed my thoughts. The Russos, I don't know if it's them or what, but they've been really mean to Star-Lord ever since he's been in their movies, because it's not the way that he's written.
Right.
It's the way the world responds to him that makes them like be like, "Oh, this guy's stupid," and then it's like, "Oh, audience laugh," but it's like, whatever, it's fine. Star-Lord's my favorite character, so naturally I'm going to be offended when they make him out to be a complete buffoon that he's not.
Well,
but
but
anyway,
you gotta admit, it was pretty funny
part,
to look at that moment.
What?
Nothing. Go. What was your favorite part?
Just take your pick from the final act. Like,
yeah, pretty much the whole final act is I love.
That was great. I was really happy they started with Hawkeye's family dusting. That was the perfect way to start the film. I liked Hawkeye a lot in this movie as a character because he was compelling, but I hate that he didn't have a lot of personality.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Like, you can't win them all. What about you? What was your favorite part?
So I've got two favorite moments. I can't think of a favorite funny moment. There are plenty throughout the movie. But my two favorite moments were when Cap picks up Mjolnir.
Yes.
This was something that going into the movie, I don't know if we talked about it in our final predictions or not, but I've read a couple articles that were like, if this is ever going to happen, and they hinted it would happen in Avengers 2, if it's ever going to happen where he really does it, it's got to be in this movie. Like, if he doesn't do it now, it's never going to happen. And so when Thor summoned Mjolnir in the past, I was like, okay, this is going to happen. It's just a matter of where. And so when Hulk took a hit and dropped Mjolnir and it showed the shot of it landing, I was like, oh, shit. Here we go. This is about to happen. And so when it happened, I love going to midnight or early premieres of stuff because it's a bunch of geeks. We're all obsessed with this shit, and we all freak out. My audience was very quiet the whole movie. That was the only time that we all let loose and cheered. And I led the charge, absolutely. I was so freaking pumped in that moment. Like, that was great. And not only that, but like that fight, just that moment where Cap is fighting with Mjolnir and his shield, and he's fighting Thanos, that's gotta be one of the top 10 fights in the Marvel Universe. Like, that was awesome.
Yep. I saw, just real quick, I saw a picture that took the lines from Avengers 1 where Tony and Steve are arguing, where Steve says, "You're not the one to make the sacrificial play." And then Tony says, "Everything special about you came out of a bottle." And it showed below that the panel of Iron Man sacrificing himself and Cap being worthy. And it was like, man, that was really cool how they proved each other wrong in the same fight.
Yeah. My second favorite moment was when Captain Marvel showed up in the big fight. That was a moment I was real proud of myself for not losing all of my shit, because I was so invested in the fight, and then those cannons turned up, and they're like, what are they shooting at? And then you just see the glow and you hear the noise, and suddenly, bam, she takes out the whole ship. I was just like, I had my hand over my mouth, and I was just screaming. I was like, like, I thought that was great. And then my third favorite moment was I Am Iron Man. That was such an amazing end.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about that for a minute, because I didn't expect that. I didn't predict that. But like when Thanos gets the glove and he's just like, I am inevitable, which he has heard himself in the future say that. So he's just like, oh yeah, I'm cool. I'm going to say that line again. Right. But it sets up the perfect ending for Iron Man, where he's got the glove And he looks at him and he's just like, I am Iron Man. And just snap. Boom.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. It was so, what a moment.
Yeah. I thought that was great. The moment they did the 5 years, I talked to Ben, who you mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. We both were in agreement that when 5 years came on screen, we both kind of thought to ourselves, yep, Tony's gone.
Yeah.
There's no way. But so a few things. I'll try to be more. I'm not gonna bring up critiques unless if you touch on them.
Here, I've got one. So we've mentioned some of the there's a lot of questions about the time travel, and potentially that will come up. I'm interested to hear you, and then we've mentioned kind of we didn't like Thor. The only other critique that I have is from that final fight, and in the moment I loved it. Like, I was so pumped, I was excited about it, but after thinking about it, it doesn't make sense. And this is the moment when all the girls get together.
It's
in front
so
of Peter
stupid.
Parker. No. In the moment, it's amazing. Like, I loved it, but from a technical standpoint, it doesn't make any sense. But that's
my thing. Like,
well, hang on, let me get there. I want to get there.
Okay.
Because there's one thing that just you look at this and it's like, okay, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. But so I loved that interaction between Carol and Peter, where he's like, "Hi, I'm Peter Parker," and she's like, "Hey, Peter Parker, you want me to take that?" And so I loved that. But then all the girls coming, like, it was really, really exciting. I was like, "Oh yeah, girl power, here we go. This is gonna be great." And then Wasp shows up, and that's where you think this doesn't make sense, because Wasp was with Ant-Man, working on getting the quantum realm back together, and how did she get over there? Like, why did she go over there? And it's like they were just like, okay, girl shot, everybody come together. Wasp, get over here, girl. Like, come on. So,
and that's why it's stupid, because like the flow of the battle was great, but that moment, it felt like they brought you out of the movie, broke immersion entirely, and were like, feel something, like, like,
I don't know that I would go so far to say it was stupid, but it doesn't make sense, because why was Wasp there?
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't make sense, because like a lot of those shouldn't have been there. Like, I would have turned, if I was in that lineup, I would have turned to Mantis and been like, "What are you doing? Get out of here! What are you gonna do?
You're gonna feel them to death?
You're gonna sleep them to death? Like, what?" But Gamora was there, even though that made no sense, because she had no allegiance to any of them except for Nebula, and she was like just figuring out her identity. So her being there was like, that doesn't make sense. That's not Gamora's style. She'd be off on her own fighting for herself if it was that version of Gamora. Wasp being there made no sense. The fact that all of them converged in that one point, and again, and I told you I wasn't going to nitpick unless you brought it up, so here we are. But I did like the delivery of, "Hey, Peter Parker, you got something for me." That was the one time that Carol Danvers has had any amount of personality in all of the MCU.
I think Captain Marvel going forward is going to be so much better. Whether they go back in time or just put her in right now, I think her next movie is going to be amazing. Like, I think you're even going to like it, Steven. I think she's going to be so much better. But go ahead, finish your point.
We can talk about that later, because I don't know about that.
That's a whole other bottle. I don't want to open it up, but go ahead.
Yep. But she says, he's like, "How are you going to get through there?" She's like, "I've got help." And in the moment, I just thought, well, okay, if you are as powerful as the universe has made you out to be, you don't need anybody. You could just end this whole thing yourself, because you are an uninteresting character who is too powerful. And so, like, it brought me out of that moment, because it's like, this is not an earned moment. This is just a moment to basically, Ben's wife put it best. She said it was a moment that was created to make BuzzFeed articles.
Right.
Like, that basically is all it was for. And so to me, I wouldn't have minded it if it didn't break continuity, but it did, and it felt really forced and awkward.
Yeah. See, and like that same moment in Infinity War, where it was Black Widow, Okoye, and
Scarlet
Witch all kind of they all inadvertently converged on one point.
That makes
and
sense.
Kind of defended each other. That one made a lot more sense, but had the same kind of impact.
Yeah, I liked that moment a lot. I thought it was way better because it would make sense for a fighter like Okoye to back up Black Widow because they fight very similarly, so they're going to be on the same level of play as each other. But then when you have everyone literally freezing for a selfie, it's like, this makes no sense.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Were there any other critiques that you really had that we've come across everything else that I really had any issue with?
Disliked Thor.
Right. We mentioned that.
A Captain Marvel moment annoyed me, but I'm not going to talk about it. I was pleased with the amount of Captain Marvel.
I think they handled that as well as they could. What I was going to say when you talked about her coming in, like, well, if you're supposed to be so powerful, I liked that she kind of got her butt handed to her by Thanos. And even though I don't know how that affected her afterwards, because it all was moving so quick at that point, I'm really glad that surprised her and she was kind of humbled a bit, I really enjoyed how they handled Captain Marvel in this whole thing. So, but
I enjoyed the amount they used her, but I still hate her character. Not going to talk about that.
Okay.
Sam getting the shield.
Oh my gosh.
Strong disagreement.
Really?
Yes. Here's why. People are saying, "Oh, well, Sam should get the shield because we've seen his relationship with Cap develop."
Right.
But that's not what the mantle is about. You look at Captain Falcon. Okay, Captain Falcon? What do we call?
I've been calling him that.
What do we call Sam? We call him Falcon, right? Because that is his hero name. What do we call Bucky?
The Winter Soldier?
No, because that persona is supposed to be dead. Because that was the assassin. Is he the White Wolf like he was in Wakanda? We don't know because he has zero identity right now outside of Cap's best friend. So wouldn't it have made more sense to give the shield to someone who is literally starving for not only redemption to make up for his past sins, but also starving for identity? Falcon is great as Falcon. He doesn't need to be Captain America to be a good character. He already is a good character. But
right.
Bucky needs definition. And to me, it's more compelling to give him that platform of I'm the symbol of America so that he can prove himself as a hero since he's still got all of this guilt on his conscience about the things he did in the past.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because for those very same reasons, I think that's why Falcon should get it. Because more than probably anybody else that's in the Avengers right now, who has the same moral alignment as Cap? I'd say it's Falcon every time. And even the line he delivers when he realizes, Steve's gone. He's like, well, I'd hate to live in a world without Captain America. And he's like, oh, that reminds me, you're Captain America now. I think more than anything, he's the best person to take the idea and the morals and the ideology of Captain America and continue him on. I don't think an Nazi assassin, brainwashed or not, could take that same symbol and run with it.
But we're about to get a series with both of them.
Right.
Wouldn't that be more interesting to have Bucky hold that mantle with the weight of living up to his best friend's legacy on his shoulders and have Falcon being his moral compass? Kind of carrying on the mantle of Captain America with him, but not being the actual person. Because one, cinematically, I do not see Falcon in the wingsuit with the shield looking good or being effective. Two, Falcon does not have super soldier serum, so he's just a guy.
That's the only argument I'll follow with and agree with, because Bucky, as I understand it, does have the serum. Correct?
Yeah, he's got a serum. Yes.
Yeah. So that's the only argument that I'm like, yeah, you're right. That makes sense. But I don't know. I don't think it would be more interesting for that series if Falcon or if Winter Soldier was Captain America and Falcon was just his moral compass. I think similarly they're both going to be Because I mean, I think the arc for Winter Soldier in that series, either way, is going to be, continuing to redeem yourself, continuing to stick the good line and be a hero.
Right. But to me, and again, this is probably just preference, but like, if you take the moral compass and you give him the shield,
Mm-hmm.
then you just have Captain America again, and then why do you need Bucky? You don't. If he is as damaged as everyone's saying, well, he shouldn't be Captain America because he is so damaged, then why is he even there to begin with?
Well,
we know we're getting
why
him
has
either
he
way.
been there? I mean, you could make the same argument.
Well, but it makes more sense to me for him, like from an interesting arc. Falcon doesn't need him in that sense. If Falcon is Captain America, he has the shield, he's the symbol. Then why do we care if Bucky's there or not? It just makes more sense to me. It's kind of like Batman and Superman and Captain America and Tony. You've got the grounded character who is the smarts, and then you've got the godlike moral compass who is the brawn. Mm-hmm. Or I guess Captain America and Iron Man are a better example. Captain America is the morals and the heart and the brains, but he's not very effective in combat when it comes to the grander scale. But then you've got Iron Man, who's like got suits on suits on suits and heavy firepower,
Mm-hmm.
but he is a flawed man inside the armor. That's an interesting parallel because they each have something that the other doesn't. So Falcon, in this case, with Falcon being the new Captain America, he has everything and Bucky has nothing. He's just kind of there for muscle, and that just doesn't seem interesting to me.
See, I don't follow. I don't agree, or I don't follow that thought process at all. Because to me, I see them as both a Captain America level character, and I don't think Falcon getting a shield and a title elevates him much further past Bucky anyway. Like, I understand that the character is supposed to be higher, but I don't think Falcon becoming Captain America puts him suddenly at the same level as Steve Rogers and Iron Man. Like, I don't see this as we've got Bucky, who's the new Cap level person, and Falcon, who's the new Iron Man level person. I don't see it that way at all. I see it as they're still both B level characters. One just has a cool new name, and
right. But in the dynamic together, though, if they truly are both kind of carrying the mantle together, I don't know. Again, nitpicky. Why not give the guy with a metal arm who is super strong the shield?
Yeah, I mean, that's if you want to make an argument, that's the one that I can get on board with. I've
got a lot of arguments to make with that. I just thought it was dumb. I disagree, but
I mean, in the comics, they both
do what they're gonna do.
Become him at one point.
Right, they have. But I just think that cinematically, we have been setting up for Bucky this whole time, and I think that it would have been more powerful to me if Bucky had the shield and Bucky was like, I've spilt so much blood. Mm-hmm. and Cap's like, I know who you are, I know you can redeem yourself, and then he turns to Falcon and he says, guide him, something like that, because we know Falcon has the moral alignment, we know he's got the same heart that Captain America does, so that just seems like it fits like a glove then for Bucky to be on this arc of being the symbol that America needs, and Falcon being like, I fought alongside Steve more than you did. Mm-hmm. This is what he would do, something like that. I don't know.
Well, we could probably run in circles on this conversation for a while. Let's move on. Overall, loved the movie. Thought it was great.
What would you give it on a scale of 1 to 10?
It's hard. It's hard to give this movie a scale. Like we had a conversation on the live stream last night. Is this movie a better movie than Infinity War, or where does this stand? And for me, I don't know how to rank it, and I don't know how to rate it, because to me it was an experience that was a culmination of 11 years of this universe and this all these movies, and I don't know how to rate it or place it anywhere because to me it's different. Like,
Yeah.
I can't say that it's better than Infinity War because I feel like it's so different.
Yeah. I think as a film, I prefer Infinity War pretty heavily because it was much more cohesive. Like it the pacing was great. It managed everything super well. Everyone had their moment. But Endgame felt like you said, more of an experience. Definitely the better cinematic experience because it was a love letter to all of us. But being such a bloated love letter, I don't know how many times I'm going to rewatch this movie because I've already experienced it. But Infinity War, I could rewatch a lot.
Well, see, I don't think I could rewatch Infinity War without watching Endgame. To me, they're one movie that we just had to, we had to have as two movies. I'd almost prefer they had just released, a 5.5 hour movie that was the whole thing. Just because that, to me, that's how it makes more sense. But anyway, overall, I love it. I mean, if I had to rate it, I'd say at least a 9, maybe a 10. But again, it's such an experience that any critiques I have, I can't, overall, I can't, they don't justify it not being an amazing movie, in my opinion. So it's just choices that they made that I either wasn't expecting but was delighted with, or wasn't expecting and kind of thought were weird, like the girl thing, which again, in the moment, I loved. In the theater, it was awesome. But thinking about it didn't make sense.
I gave it a 7.5.
7.5, really?
Yeah. There were a lot of immersion breaking things and a lot of questionable. I mean, you and I are very different. I look at the subtext a lot. I think about plot. I think about what makes sense in continuity, and it's really easy for me to get brought out of something.
Well, then it's very difficult for me too, because even that girl moment, it didn't bring me out of the movie. But later, someone pointing out, why did Wasp show up? Where she wasn't even supposed to be there. So I don't want to dive any further into this. Steven, quickly tell us what you think is coming next. What's your new theory?
So, in the past, Marvel has liked to release their movies along a very close timeline as to when they take place.
Right.
Infinity War took place in 2018. Winter Soldier took place in 2014. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So with the 5-year jump, we're now left wondering, what does that mean for the movies? Is the next movie going to take place 4 years in the future? Mm-hmm. We don't know. But what if, at the end of Endgame, we see that time travel is not only still possible, but it's actually really easy. Mm-hmm. They could have been like, oh, Tony's dead, sad. Wait a minute, let's just go to timeline F and get our own new Tony. But they can do that. And so the end of Endgame left me wondering two things for the future. One, what's going to happen to time travel? And I was left thinking they need to make it go away. Two, the 5-year jump. So the movies that we know about that are coming are Spider-Man, which I don't really consider. I think it's going to be just an isolated story about the aftermath.
Yeah, I agree. I think it might tease towards the end something, but yeah, I think I mostly agree. An isolated. So how do we deal with this story?
Yeah. So other than that, we know we've got the Black Widow movie, which everyone is saying it's probably a prequel. Well, it kind of has to be at this point.
Well, do you know when that's taking place? Because they have confirmed when that's taking place.
Is it early 2000s?
It's after Avengers 1.
Oh, interesting.
Which doesn't make any sense to me, but that's what I've read. So
yeah, that really doesn't make any sense at all. Mm-hmm. So anyway, my thinking, maybe Black Widow's not the best example, but then you've got a Shang-Chi movie.
Right.
And then the Eternals, basically characters that we're thinking where do they fit in? Shang-Chi, my understanding of Shang-Chi, he's just a guy that does Kung Fu really well.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. I don't even think he's on a Iron Fist type level where he can use
Iron
magic.
Fist is way more powerful than Shang-Chi. Because Iron Fist is literally the greatest martial artist in the world, and he has the Iron Fist.
Right.
So my thing is why is Shang-Chi even here? where does he come from? When is this movie going to take place? So what if these movies that we're getting don't take place chronologically? What if they take place in different timelines altogether? What if the Black Widow solo movie is in a different timeline, maybe even timeline C, where Loki got away? What if Shang-Chi is in a timeline where we didn't get certain superheroes? And there is a need for somebody who's really good at Kung Fu. I don't know. So take, and that way,
he's the
every
new
movie
Hawkeye.
that releases.
It's like, what do you
I don't know
do?
what you're
I'm
talking
really
about.
good at
I
Kung
don't know.
Fu. Like,
I don't know what you're talking about. Hawkeye kicked butt.
Oh, he did, but in Avengers, everybody was just like, "What's Hawkeye doing?" And even in Avengers, I thought he had great moments in the fights.
What's Black Widow doing? She's the useless one.
Okay, yeah, there you go. That might be better. Okay, anyway, sorry.
But so what if each of these movies takes place in a different timeline? That way, as the years progress in our world, like literally,
We can catch
our
up
world,
to the time.
we can catch up, and then they pick up the pace with an introduction to the Fantastic Four.
Right.
In 2022, maybe. I don't know. 2023, I don't know. But this all leads to an event where all of the timelines intersect. So the Black Widow from the alternate timeline we got introduced to, Shang-Chi from that timeline, Loki from his timeline in the Disney Plus, all of them converged into one timeline by Kang the Conqueror. Because it has been his MO kind of, and I got this from Lego Marvel Superheroes too. So if you want my source, there it is.
Look, I'm all about using kids' animation shows to predict where the cinematic universe is going to go.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
it's so every time you can almost follow it to the T what they're going to do next. But anyway, continue.
So in that, Chronopolis is created, which is a city that consists of different timelines. Noir New York with Spider-Man Noir is there. Nueva York is there. The timeline where Hydra runs the world is there. So what if Kang, seeing, oh hey, these guys figured out time travel, that's not gonna fly with me, collects people from different timelines, basically kind of like the Collector, but with like realities, puts them all in one place, one Chronopolis, and we get this movie where, and I say the Fantastic Four would be an introduction because Reed Richards is one of like the main interdimensional travelers, so it would make sense for him to kind of drive this kind of plot. So we got a Secret Wars movie, and in this Secret Wars movie, you not only have all of the characters from these different solo movies that we got coming to our central timeline, but you could also have these people called mutants from a timeline in, let's say, 1980, 1990, come into a timeline that is now in the 2020s. That way you can still have Magneto that survived the Holocaust without him being an absurdly old man.
Right.
Because you can't have Magneto without his Nazi Germany background.
Right.
So my theory basically is that Phase 4 is going to be spent in different timelines, catching up to the year 2023, in which we will get a Secret Wars crossover where they will blend all these different timelines, giving us Black Widow back through a kind of weird resurrection. Give us Shang-Chi, maybe give us a good Iron Fist. And basically bring everybody home in a reality-altering event that brings us mutants. And I thought about this earlier when we were talking about like the collapse of government in the year 2023. How much more impactful would the arise of mutants be if the government was already in shambles, and then by the time they just got reestablished, it's like, well, shoot, there are people developing world-ending powers out there. Like that creates that tense reality of mutants being a global threat, and thus leading into the next thing that could be Avengers versus X-Men.
Right. That could be cool. Yeah. So
See,
let
a lot
me
of my
ask-
stuff is hinged directly towards how are they going to... Go ahead.
Well, no. What I get, my question is, Thanos was this huge. He arced. He was the villain behind everything for 20 some odd movies. Do you think Kang will be Thanos, or do you think he'll be Loki or Ultron, if that makes sense? Like, will he be
Like
the first villain to get the new Avengers together, or will this Secret Wars build even further? Because based on what you're saying right now, it sounds like Avengers 5 would be Secret Wars.
So to me, it's like if we were to see the Infinity Saga as getting us to Thanos and the repercussions, to me, that's kind of how I see getting to Kang, is getting to him and then winning the day, but then realizing everything has changed,
Right.
and dealing with the aftermath of that. The main thing being mutants,
Right.
because mutants showing up is huge, especially with something like the Sokovia Accords already in place. You bring mutants into the scene, it's like literally anyone could be a threat. And so I guess you could say that maybe Kang could be Ultron in the sense that he kind of creates the need for more internal security, maybe. I don't know. But I could totally see them teasing Kang over these next few films, like having a post-credit scene where he is monitoring the film we just watched. Like he is watching that timeline because he is intrigued and he wants them a part of his collection. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. This is a really compelling theory. I've thought for the longest time. I mean, we even in our predictions, one of the things we talked about was who comes next.
Yeah.
I've thought Kang makes the most sense for the next villain.
Yep.
But it's interesting how you're laying it out here, because this sounds like this will get us through. Like Kang will be the villain of Phase 4, who will get us caught up and will not fix the universe, but will set it up to get the X-Men and to get mutants in and other things. And so he may not be the big villain going forward. Right. That may be someone else. That may be Ultron again, or it may be Doctor Doom or someone. So that's interesting.
Yeah, setting up the culmination for later being possibly Avengers versus X-Men.
Right. Well, and so the only I don't think this is poking holes in your theory. This is just a question. So, like, obviously, Far From Home is kind of disconnected from this because that's just kind of catching us up. But I agree with you. Like, maybe at the end we'll see Kang watching this and be like, something has to be done, or I want this to be part of my collection or something. I totally could see that happening. What about Guardians?
I don't think we'll get that in Spider-Man.
Guardians 3. How do you think that connects?
Guardians 3, I think, will take place in our timeline. I don't think that it will be as affected from the time jump, because if you get a movie that's cosmic, it doesn't really need to exist cohesively with ours, because a lot of people don't realize Guardians Volume 2 took place 4 months after Guardians 1 in the year 2014. But you didn't really notice because it was in space.
Right. So
I think Guardians 3 will complete the trilogy that James Gunn has been doing, where they relocate Gamora, Adam Warlock is introduced, and it'll do that whole story. And I think maybe not, they'll be included in Secret Wars. I don't know. But they're, I don't know. I could totally see them being included. But to me, it's more about completing their trilogy, because it was just left in a weird place.
Yeah.
Just a side thought before you either end it or have another question, but I don't know if you realize, but with that 5-year jump, if he wasn't dusted, that means Miles Morales, who is confirmed to be in this universe, is 5 years older. So he is closer to the age of being a Spider-Man.
This is true. That's interesting. That could be really cool.
Yeah.
So basically, out of what we know, because it's rumored that there's a Doctor Strange 2 and there's a Black Panther 2 coming. So really, Black Widow and Chang-Li, is that, what was it?
Shang-Chi.
Say that one more time.
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi.
Yes.
Those are really the only two that I could see taking place in an alternate timeline. Obviously, you mentioned the Loki thing. That's very much happening in an alternate timeline.
Yeah.
I don't know. It could be interesting. And I don't think the Eternals is going to be an alternate timeline either.
Probably not.
I think. Well, I could be wrong. I'm looking at that as a prequel to the Infinity Stones and what happened. A lot of stuff in the past. But I could be totally wrong, and they be present. And it just be what are the Eternals doing now? But I'm assuming they're all dead at this point.
And to me, this is mainly just a vehicle to get us to
The X-Men.
A timeline where the X-Men exist, and the Fantastic Four are there too. Mm-hmm. Maybe the Fantastic Four are another timeline that's brought in. I don't know.
Well,
but
see, I think the Fantastic Four can show up in the current timeline as is.
I agree.
Because theirs is not as complicated. They just have to. A space venture has to happen. Some cosmic event has to happen in space to affect them to give them powers. That's fine.
Right.
But when the whole world starts having powers, that's when.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
And to me, the X-Men thing is not only about like generations upon generations of mutants, but to me, you can't have X-Men without Magneto. And again, you can't have Magneto without his struggle through the Holocaust, because that's when he saw how cruel humanity is, planting the seeds for his motivation. Mm-hmm. And that would have been, 1940s. And so you would be looking at an 80-year-old Magneto. Mm-hmm. And that's just not realistic. And so if you brought that from a timeline that took place I think the 90s would be great, because then you've got an excuse to use X-Men that have their costumes from the 90s when they were their biggest.
Right.
That would be great. Fans would love that. Like Cyclops with the orange, with the yellow and blue, with the bandolier around him. Like, that would be great. But that's my main thing is, like, I don't really see them doing this. I think it would be the coolest way to use what they've got, and I think it would be smart. But ultimately, this is, to me, is just a vehicle to get all of their franchises in order. Get them all in the same place and set them up for a future where they have eliminated time travel as a possibility, because then they could be like, wow, maybe time traveling all the time is dumb, because time traveling conquerors will come and make us pay.
Right.
Like, stuff like that. It's a good way for them to get real in-universe reason and not time travel, because as far as I'm concerned, at the end of Endgame, they had zero. They could have just time traveled with no repercussions.
Right.
And now that Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne are back, two, like, of the most brilliant quantum physicists on the planet, why don't they just perfect time travel? Make it to where it's not even a risk, which they could, because they're geniuses. Mm-hmm. So,
well, I mean, they know more about the quantum, especially Janet Van Dyne, my God.
Yeah.
They know more about the quantum realm than anybody. And Tony figured it out in a night, So if they have this understanding and then bring all of their just quantum realm in general knowledge, like, imagine what they could do. So
if you get them plugged into an existing time machine, they will perfect that time machine. And that is the exact kind of thing that Hank would do.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be real interesting. Yeah. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into this episode of ChortleCast. We do hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, maybe even hit that subscribe button. Share this with your friends, leave a comment, let us know what you thought about all these topics. But that's only if you're watching on YouTube. That's chortlegames.com. I'm really butchering this. I haven't done it in a while. You can also find us on, you can also contact us at chortlecast@gmail.com. Let us know about topics that you'd like to hear us talk about, maybe a news story you heard about this week that you'd like to hear us talk about. Anything like that. You just want to tell us hi. We'll say hi back, I'm sure. And then you can also get in touch with us through our Discord, which you can get in the description of this video or in the link in our channel banner. Again, chortlegames.com. And then you can also follow us on Twitter at ChortleGames and Facebook at ChortleGames and hang out with us there. See when we post, see our thoughts about things that are happening live, and all that good stuff. Steven, thanks for hanging out. Good talking. Mm-hmm. Good conversation this week, especially the Avengers stuff. It was really good.
Yeah.
We won't spoil anything if you jumped ahead to this moment, so we appreciate you
You
sticking around even to the end. We got the podcast is not the only thing we do here on the channel, Steven. There's tons of stuff that we do. Tonight, Steven is going to be playing Division 2. In fact, if you're watching this as this airs live, typically this airs at 12 o'clock Central Monday, but due to some scheduling issues, we're pushing it back to 7 o'clock. So it's probably 8:30 or so at this point. I don't know time. Yeah, I'm like the Russo. Just call me the Russos brothers. Time doesn't matter. Steven is going to be streaming Division 2 very shortly after this airs.
Yeah.
So stick around, hang out, see him do that. We'll probably have our friends Friendly Fire Games or Jeremy from 8-Bit Gamesters on.
Or both.
So you'll have some fun folks to play with and hang out with. Tuesday and Thursday are what we call Team Up Tuesday or Thursday. That's where we do a co-op live stream playing something like Anthem or Division or Portal Knights or Borderlands, which Brody and Steven have been playing. So we're hoping to do that Tuesday. If we can't make it happen Tuesday, we're going to try again Thursday. And if Brody, for some reason, can't make it or if something goes wrong, I will probably jump in. And we might play something like Anthem or Division. So I don't know what's going to happen this Tuesday or Thursday. But stick around. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook to know what's going on. On Wednesday, we'll have a Let's Play. It's going to be part 2 of me playing Ghost Giant, which is the game where you're a giant ghost and you're hanging out with this little animal kid and you're messing with folks in the world and stuff. It's pretty fun. So that's going to be Wednesday. And then Friday, Steven is going to live stream something. Probably Division.
I play more than just the Division.
Do you?
I do.
I don't think so.
Okay.
And then Saturday, I will be live streaming, and I'm almost definitely going to play Days Gone. So look forward to that. And then, we'll have more great content for you the next week. Steven, thanks for hanging out. It's a good conversation. As always, thank you folks for watching and tuning in. If you got to hang out with us live, we appreciate you. Hope you enjoyed hanging out with everybody in the live chat and the premiere chat. That's it. So we'll see you maybe tonight at Division. And if not tonight, maybe some other time this week. We'll see you next time. Bye.